Welcome to my PowerPoint about straights in Balatro. What is a straight? So, a straight, of course, is a poker hand that you can play in Balatro. Typically, to gain a straight, you have to play cards that range in line numerically, right? So you play an ace, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5, right? You want to play 5 cards. There are ways around this, and there are different ways to make straights. You can make a straight basically multiple different combinations as long as they are in a line. Aces can count for straight highs with king, ace, king, queen, jack 10, or low, like I already previously mentioned, ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. They start at a base of 30 chips and 4 molt, and every time you level up a straight, it gains 30 chips and plus 3 molt. Saturn, of course, is the planet card for leveling up straights. Now let's look at some jokers that are used for straights. We start with some common jokers, of course, in Devious Joker and Crazy Joker. Devious Joker gives you 100 chips if your played hand contains a straight. A lot of people that know Balatro know that chips are typically better in the early game than they are in the late game because there is no way to multiply chips like you can with molt. So, of course, Devious Joker isn't terrible in the early game by any means. It's cheap, it is a common, it's relatively easy to find, and straights are pretty easy to get. They're not the hardest in the world, especially if you have a lot of discards, either playing red deck, or if you have a lot of hands playing blue deck, you can get to a lot of straights. Straights typically don't require that much deck fixing either, so they are very, very easy to use if you are, just getting into the game, or if you just want something that has a lot of, base molt and base chips, so it's not the worst ever. Then there's Crazy Joker. Same thing, if you play a straight, you gain plus 12 molt to your poker hand. This is arguably more impactful based on the fact that, plus 12 when you start at a base of 4 is a bigger increase, like numerically, than plus 100 when you start at a base of 30 and including all of the chips of the cards included in your, your poker hand. So Crazy Joker is slightly better than Devious Joker in my opinion. I do think that overall they're probably about the same in power level. If you are playing at, a higher stake, you're definitely going to be picking one of these up early game just because it's good. I mean, obviously, you want to build around what you're getting the best of, but if you are going for straights, say you've got either, an achievement, or you've got early levels in Saturn based on just getting lucky, or you pick up any of these jokers, then it is good to know. Then we look at some of the more interesting jokers, starting with Runner. Runner is, I'm going to say it, probably one of my favorite jokers in the entire game. I've won so many runs based on Runner, haha. Runner starts at 0 chips and gains plus 15 chips every time you play a straight. So if you played 10 straights, you'll gain 150 chips. That is, of course, better than Devious Joker, but it does take time to ramp. Runner is also good for, hey, I played a lot of straights in the early game, but now I've got a bunch of levels, or I want to play something else based on how my deck turned out, because the chips are permanent. If you did play those 10, straights, Runner will permanently give 150 chips. Again, I mentioned this, chips are typically a little bit worse than molt, because there is no way to multiply chips, but after a certain point, your molt gets so high that adding, hey, if I add 20 molt here, it's not going to be as big of a thing as adding, say, 150, or, well more if you've played if you got run early, amount of chips to the multiplier. I'm not going to get into math in Balatro because I probably am not qualified to talk about it, but there is a diminishing returns on getting too much molt that getting more chips can definitely help with. So Runner, it's really good. I love this guy. I love ramping him up. He just feels really good to play with. And hey, even if your run doesn't go the way of straights, he's not always the best thing to cut. There's always going to be, something that's maybe a better cut than Runner, but he's still really fun to play with. I do recommend picking him up if you are playing early, or if you're playing at higher stakes, because he's just really fun. He's really fun to use. I love seeing the upgrade tag every time you use him. And then there's Superposition. This is a joker, of course, that gives you a tarot card if your played hand contains an ace and a straight. So that's not bad. It obviously doesn't add to your score in any way, but getting free tarot cards early game can be quite good for getting your economy rolling if you hit a Hermit or a Temperance, or to get some deck fixing going if you hit, a Death or a Hanged Man. You can start to cut the edges off your straight, right? I know, like, if I ever get, you know, deaths from, like, a super position, or just in general, if I get deaths or a hanged man, I'll typically cut kings and queens, because aces can go low and high, right? But kings and queens can't. So if you like I'm saying, there's a lot of ways to play straights. Usually, if you are playing a straight, you want to go for, like, it's like, I think 8-7-6 is most likely to hit a straight, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but that is typically what it is, especially when you include some other cards that we'll get to actually in the next slide. But superposition overall, it's definitely fine for, like, the early to mid game to get some taros, but there's just better cards that can kind of do the same thing that you can get as well. Better jokers, sorry, I always just call them cards. There's better jokers that you can get that also give you taros, like, say, a hallucination, which gives you, you know, a 50% chance of getting a tarot every time you open a pack. You know, that's pretty good. And it doesn't rely on you always having a straight and always having an ace, especially. That is why I brought up, you know, deleting the king and queen, because of the ace. Anyway, let's go on to the next cards, which are Four Fingers and Shortcut. Four Fingers and Shortcut are really good utility cards for straights. Four Fingers, of course, it makes it so if you play a straight or a flush, it only has to be done with four cards. So you can play, you know, ace, king, queen, jack, and that's counts as a straight. You can also play, you know, a fifth card to get it out of your hand. It doesn't really matter what, as long as you're getting the straight. Or you can still just play a straight with 5 cards: ace, king, queen, jack, 10, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., etc. Four Fingers is very good for ramping your runner, because, you know, it makes it so you need less deck fixing because you are hitting your straights more often, and Shortcut does the same thing. Shortcut makes it really easy to use Four Fingers as well, because it makes it so that your straights don't have to be completely perfect, right? You can play a straight that is jack, 10, 9, 7, 6, completely skipping the 8. Or you can, like, skip every other with, like, ace, queen, 10, 8, 6, skipping every other. There's a million permeations that can be done, you know, based on the amount of, based on your shortcut, of course. But still, it's a good utility card. Of course, these are not the best ever because they don't give you any molt, but if you're getting enough molt or chips, I guess, from your other jokers, like your runner, that is easy to ramp up because of these cards, then they're really efficient in what they do. That being said, I wouldn't always pick these up if you are playing a straight run, because sometimes it is just better to say, hey, I'd rather fix my deck and then make it so I'm more likely to hit straights that way, or I'd rather, you know, get more money, or I'd rather have more power because, hey, I'm not getting any power from these cards, unless, you know, of course, they're like polychrome or whatever. But yeah, they are fun to use. I do like picking these up when I am going for runner build, especially in the early game, so you can ramp your runner. They're really powerful there, but I wouldn't always pick these up if you don't really need it, and especially at a higher stakes, they kind of aren't as good as just getting more, you know, score. So there is that. And then we have the last joker we're talking about today, the Order. The Order is a rare joker, and it gives ×3 molt if you play a straight. Super simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Ironically, the way you unlock this is by playing an entire run without getting a straight. So it is, if you are straight, if straights are like something you like to go for, like, you are gonna definitely mess it up if you trying to unlock this. Overall, I think like the Order is probably the best straight based joker because, well, it gives ×3 molt. That's pretty damn good. There's not really much to say about this one. Like, getting ×3 molt is obviously great, right? Especially when you get a lot of levels in straight, because, you know, like I said, you gain +3 molt every time you level up. There's not that many straight jokers that apply molt. It's kind of just, the crazy joker that applies molt, and it's like the +12, like I said. So using this to get molt from your other jokers is definitely pretty nice. I mean, who's ever gonna turn down ×3 molt, by the way? If you can get, and again, straights are not that hard to get off. You can get them pretty consistently as long as you have as long as you have a good amount of discards in hands to play through things. So they can definitely scale pretty well into the late game. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed, this is my first ever Balatro kind of PowerPoint like this, so it's definitely not going to be very long. It's probably only going to be about 10 minutes now that I look at the time. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think. I think I should have just transitioned to Balatro right away instead of Marvel Rivals. I don't know why I did didn't do this. I play so much. I love Balatro. My friends all talk about it. I talk about it with everyone. I watch Balatro videos. Why did I not just do this? I don't know. So I'm going to be doing Balatro now. I don't know why, not Marvel Rivals. Maybe I'll still do a little bit, maybe, but I'm just going to be a Balatro guy. It's a better game. Balatro's Balatro might be my favorite game that's out right now. I don't really know what more to say. I think it would have been justified if it won Game of the Year. I really do. This is probably the best card game out at all right now. I don't think there's a better card game that you can play than Balatro right now currently. Is it the best roguelike game? A roguelite? I still think Slay the Spire is a better roguelite, but as a card game, I definitely think Balatro is better. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me think down below. What's your favorite Joker in Balatro? I'd love to hear that. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye.